Welcome to the Athlete Insights Podcast, hosted by Yash Padhye, a podcast focused on letting athletes tell their journeys in their sport. This podcast is presented by Boxed Water. Boxed water is better.
Welcome into another episode of the Athlete Insights Podcast. Today I've got my guest, Jourdain Kamps. She's an outside hitter for the Montana State University Bobcats women's volleyball team. So, Jourdain, appreciate you. I know we talking off camera a little bit, the hecticness of the summer and how crazy it flies by, but I appreciate you kind of taking the time and chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you know, I don't know if you've watched a couple of my episodes that I've put out, but I like to start from where you started and kind of from what you went through. So what did you play? Was volleyball kind of your first love? What kind of got you into volleyball? Did you play any other sports? Can you talk about that a little bit growing up?
Yes, of course. So my mom actually was a college volleyball player. She played for a JUCO in Missouri. That's where she's from. And then she got recruited to go to Mizzou and ended up not playing there. But once she moved out to Montana, she became a volleyball coach. So she was actually my coach all through high school, which was pretty fun. And so that's how I got into volleyball. It was always my favorite sport. But being from a small town and being pretty tall, I got suckered into playing all the other sports. So I did basketball and track all through high school as well.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So what, and you said your mom kind of got you into volleyball. She was a volleyball coach. I read that she was your high school coach, like you said, all throughout high school there, for a minute. But when it comes to your youth volleyball career, kind of how you when you played youth volleyball, is there one memorable thing that really stands out to you throughout your youth career before we get into your high school career here?
Yeah, I kind of grew up in the gym all the time. I was a gym rat. And so that's what grew my love for it, just being around the older girls that were on the high school team. I really looked up to them and I just thought they were the coolest. So I wanted to be like them.
Gotcha. So, and that's what sports does, right? It brings mental,
Mm-hmm.
especially team sports like volleyball, allows you to interact with people, get different perspectives, and really, really builds the camaraderie of being together. And so we'll jump into now your high school career here. And I know, like we've been talking about, your mom coached you throughout high school. Can you talk about that experience, your high school experience, and kind of what it was like throughout your high school experience playing volleyball?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, I'm from a really small town. I graduated with 26 people in my class. And so there wasn't a lot of people to play on the team. And I was way taller than a lot of my peers. And so I was able to play varsity as a freshman all through high school. And I wouldn't say Class C, the smallest class in Montana, is the most competitive,
Mhm.
but I got to play varsity all through, which was really cool. I
Yeah.
was a middle for my team, and then I got to play club, which really helped me grow as an athlete. And then just having my mom as a coach was always a little worried. You
Mhm.
kind of hear about kids playing for their parents,
Yeah.
but it actually was great. I think it made our relationship stronger, and it's cool that now I get to talk volleyball with her being out of high school. And so I absolutely loved it. I wish I could still play for her.
For sure. And I'm always interested. You talk about now being out of high school and you're at Montana State now, but I'm always interested in understanding kind of the athletes that I interview and talk about as their recruiting process into the collegiate space. So can you touch a little bit about your experience in the recruiting process? And I know from your perspective, it's different because now we have the transfer portal and all these different things, but you were recruited back in 2018, 2019, that area around that time. So can you talk about kind of your experiences during that time?
Yeah. So when I started, I didn't really have any idea how it worked. And
Gotcha.
thankfully, we had people from Gold Medal Squared come in and run some camps in Ennis. So I met a guy named Tom Melton who kind of helped me take some video and send it to coaches and kind of told me, what I should do. So I sent emails with my video to lots of coaches.
Uh-huh.
And I got in pretty close contact with a school in California. And then I actually met Daniel Jones, the old MSU head coach, who's the head coach when I was in high school, through this gold medal squared. So I actually known him for a while.
Gotcha.
And so him and I kind of built a relationship. And then through my recruiting process, I went to camps here, went to camps in Missoula, actually, and then in California to that school I mentioned.
Mhm.
And then further along, I kind of narrowed it down. And ultimately, I decided I wanted to go to Montana State to stay a little closer to home. And I just knew how great Bobcat country was. So I wanted to go to MSU.
Gotcha. And you said MSU, we were talking a little bit off camera. It's always great to be. I'm a big on family and staying close to home, and I haven't really done a great job of that so far, but it's been great to see kind of how you're only an hour away from home. And again, your mom being a volleyball coach, you guys are able to, I'm sure she critiques you and she gives you pointers. Um, that has been throughout your Montana State career so far, I'm sure. So
Yes, yes. Well, she actually likes to say that she didn't teach me anything. And I was like, well, how did I get here if you didn't teach me anything?
so now you said you connected with Coach Jones, the former coach at MSU. It's kind of what drove you to come to Montana State. What was the biggest difference that you saw between playing in high school versus playing in college? What was the difference between the two sets of games that you saw when you first
Yeah,
came?
I think the speed definitely of how fast the game goes at the college level, and then also the size of the people that we're playing against. But yes, the speed definitely. I redshirted my first year, and I'm so thankful I did because I don't think I would have been able to keep up if I would have just outright played.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And you talked about redshirting that first year, 2019. Then you go into COVID, which canceled the season. You guys had to play in the spring and then the fall. Can you talk about kind of how you grew, what you learned from that experience, and kind of the challenge that you faced, starting your collegiate career redshirting and then kind of the snowball effect of COVID and how that happened? Can you talk about how you grew from that and your experience through that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was really thankful that I got to redshirt. That was kind of the plan, me coming in, especially
Yeah.
being from a smaller school. And so then I was all revved up, ready to play. And
Uh-huh.
then COVID hit,
Yeah.
and that kind of hit tail end of my freshman spring.
Yeah.
And so we always kind of thought, oh, we'll be able to play by the fall. Like this will all kind of get figured out. And then the fall hit, and then we went through our fall camp. And they told us that we're not going to be playing in the fall, so that was a big hit, especially because I was so excited.
Yeah.
And then later on, we found out we got to play in the spring, which was nice, but it was less games. We didn't have a crowd. Thankfully, we were allowed to have a couple people come, so my parents did get to come watch.
Mhm.
And I think that was good and bad. It actually was kind of nice to transition into college volleyball,
Yep.
not having the crowd aspect. It kind
Uh-huh.
of took away some of that pressure,
And
and also not having as many games, it wasn't as hard on the body. So
Mhm.
that part wasn't bad, but yeah, it sucked being so excited for all of it, the entire experience, and then not getting that outright.
Gotcha. Yeah, but it's like you said, it was. I think for especially for any freshman, sophomore coming in, it can be a little intimidating. Having especially the biggest conference in FCS, the Big Sky conference out here in the western half of the U.S. It can be a little bit intimidating. I understand that aspect. So yeah, it's great to see kind of how you were able to adjust to that and do that. It's great to see that process. And Coach Hauk, we were talking a little bit earlier. I had Coach Hauk on the podcast early last semester. Great guy, great person. I really respect and appreciate what he does for you guys at Montana State. But talk about kind of your relationship with Coach Hauk, how he's helped you like get better as a player, grow as a player. Can you talk about that relationship that you've had with Coach Hauk within the last year since he's gotten there?
Yes, yeah. So we were really excited when we found out Matt and Jen were coming to coach at MSU.
Gotcha.
And so when they came in, I'm sure he talked about this, but he
Yeah.
was here by himself for the spring mostly. Jen was back in Minnesota still. And then
Gotcha.
she would come out every once in a while. But Matt and I got to get to know each other. And I think we think very similarly. I'm an exercise science geek. And so he talks all about the biomechanics of stuff. And he likes steps and he's super organized. And that's kind of how my brain works. So I felt
Mhm.
like we were on the same brainwave from the start. And
Gotcha.
then him and I kind of talked about his college career, and something that I mentioned to him was that I didn't want to feel like I wasted the last couple of years of my college career, especially since I was so lucky to get an extra year with COVID.
Yeah.
And so we ended up doing some individual practices all spring, me and him, and then Jen when she was in town. And I feel like that is really what helped me grow as a player, because I got that one-on-one individual time with him. And, they're very thorough as coaches. They had video, they were, slow mowing it afterwards to show me the difference between me doing the thing I was supposed to do and the thing I wasn't supposed to do.
Mhm.
And so that was really great. And we kind of continued that this spring as well. And just, yeah, kind of bonded over that no regrets idea where I want to leave it all on the table. And he said that's how he felt in his college career, and he was very happy with it. And so it's cool to have him mentor me through that and all those emotions.
Gotcha, gotcha. And it's great to have, and like I said, you know, speaking with Coach Hauk on here and interacting and connecting with him on social media as well has been great. And obviously I think highly of him. Obviously you think very highly of him.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy, great individual. And it's important to have, I mean, especially in sport, the right mentors and the good mentors to kind of help you through that process. And it seems like Coach Hauk has been that person for you over the last year, to help you really grow and improve and be a better, not just a better volleyball player, but a better person overall. It's great to kind of hear how that process went. So throughout your college career though, you, like I said, you started off 2019, 2020, COVID, your redshirt year, COVID, everything. Then July 1st, 2021 hits, and that's when NIL gets introduced, name, image, and likeness. So I'm
Yeah.
always interested to understand, like, how did that impact you and your collegiate career so far? How has that impacted you? Have you looked into NIL deals? Kind of how are you processing that? What's your process with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when it first was approved, we kind of knew it was coming, but no one had any idea what the rules, what the regulations around it were going to be. So it was kind of a free for all at the start. Personally, I was a little hesitant because I was like, oh, I don't want to, get into the middle of something. And then
Yeah.
I find out, oh, you're actually not allowed to do this, or they're going to make a rule where you can't,
Mhm.
whatever. So it actually wasn't a big priority of mine.
Yeah.
Recently, I've been trying to be better. Something that's really cool around here is we don't have any pro sports teams in Montana, and especially the Bozeman Gallatin Valley area. Lots of big Bobcat fans, lots of Bobcat fans that own businesses. And
Mhm.
so it's cool to have that relationship where local kids can represent local businesses. And I really don't have many NIL deals. I've kind of dipped my toes in a couple different areas, but I don't have any right now. Um, so it hasn't been a big thing on my radar, but it's been cool to see what other Montana State athletes have been able to do with it. Because it's great for us Montana kids and everyone, but especially the Montana kids around here.
For sure. It's great to hear you say I'm a big local guy. Wherever I go, I try to, help out local restaurants, local businesses, go and eat at a local place instead of a national chain, whatever it may be. So it's great to kind of hear you're kind of in the same, you kind of are along the same lines of helping local businesses, helping local things in the area. And like I said, I'm big on that too. So it's cool to kind of see that connection there, with the local businesses, local restaurants, stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah.
the local locality of the area there. And so I always ask my guests before we end the podcast here is what's the best piece of advice that you've gotten throughout, whether it be youth volleyball, high school volleyball, or your collegiate volleyball currently, the process you're going through now. What's the best piece of advice that you've gotten throughout your career?
So I couldn't tell you when it was told to me, but the idea that you can never stop learning. There's no end to how much you can learn. It kind of goes along with that growth mindset that, you always can get a little bit better. And I think that's really cool, especially because it applies outside of sport. In school, you can always do a little bit better. You just got to work a little harder, try a new tactic. In hobbies, in relationships, like if you're putting effort in to try and learn a little bit more about what the task at hand is, you're going to get better at it. And then you get to just keep moving forward. And it's a journey to do it. And so I think that is the greatest thing I've learned. And I would love to express that to other people because I think it helps in all aspects of life, which is great.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, the growth mindset are always, it's great. Always learn, and just even after you're done with a formal education, you're still learning throughout the
Yeah.
rest of your life, and that's key for people to understand. And love how you said that as well. And so I know you kind of expressed that same kind of mindset to others, but I want to give you a chance. And I always tell student athletes, if you're sitting in a room talking to, say, in this case, young girls who want to play Division 1 college volleyball and kind of get to where you want to be, what's one piece of advice or one skill set that you would express to young women who want to play like Division 1 or want to play volleyball at the highest level, like yourself? What's one piece of advice or one skill set that you'd express to them?
I think don't let anyone tell you you can't do something. I got a couple comments where, oh, you went to too small of a school, you're not going to be able to go Division 1.
Mhm.
I've had teammates where they were told they were too small to play Division 1, and they proved everyone wrong. And so I think just don't listen to what people tell you. There's always a way, and if you want it bad enough, you can achieve whatever goal you set your mind to.
Yeah. No, that's great. Great advice and kind of great thoughts and kind of how that's just not in sport, that's just overall in your life.
Yeah.
That's the same attitude that you should have regardless. And it's been great to see. Nebraska volleyball set a record for the highest rated women's attendance for a women's athletic event. So it's been great to see. You have Caitlin Clark now that's
Yeah.
put sports on the map. So it's been great to see kind of that growth of women's sports, which is should have happened a long time ago, but just now coming into form there. But it's been great to kind of
Yeah.
see how that process has played out. But that's all the time we have for this edition of the Athlete Insights podcast. Jourdain, I appreciate you taking the time once again for talking, chatting it up with me. It's been great to kind of get some insight from you about your career, kind of and your where you're at and kind of how you've got there. So appreciate you taking the time. I'll have Jourdain, your social media up on the video so you guys can follow Jourdain and her career as she finishes out her career at Montana State next year, and whatever she does beyond. And you can follow our podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcast, basically anywhere you can find a podcast, you'll find this one as well. But once again, Jourdain, appreciate you for taking the time, and we'll see you next time.